What's up everyone, Darcblade here with a build video for Monster Hunter Rise. In this video we're going to be demonstrating a pre-Sunbreak build for the bow. This is basically an endgame Monster Hunter Rise build that is a universal build that players can take into Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak and take on the start of the game fairly successfully. Of course, as you get Sunbreak materials and gear, these will replace this build, but this is just giving the players a head start when it comes to Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. So in this episode we're looking at the bow. Now as this is supposed to be a universal build, we're going to be using a non-elemental bow build, which I normally go against, as the bow excels when it comes to elemental damage, but we want to be able to use this build against pretty much any monster we come across at the start of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. So for this build you'll need the Mighty Bow Feather, the Azure Age Haori, Valstrax Bracers, Arachna Coil, and the Arachna Greaves. The Petalace is down to personal preference, and when it comes to your talisman, this depends on what you have available in your inventory, but the talisman for this build is pretty flexible, so you can go with whatever you desire. The only thing I will say is that you need to make sure you have one level of spread up attached to your talisman for this build, either through the skill being on the talisman itself or via decoration slots. As for the weapon, I'm using the Demon's Guidance, which is the Chameleos bow that has the Chameleos Soul Rampage skill attached to it. The Chameleos Soul allows hits to give us a small chance of boosting our health, stamina, attack or defense for a small duration of time. Now when it comes to the decorations, first of all you'll need either 1 or 2 spread jewels depending on the talisman you're using. This will max out the spread up skill. You'll then need critical jewels to max out crit boost, a refresh jewel to max out stamina surge, and then you'll have 2 sockets left over, to which I've gone for quick load jewels to give us 2 points in the quick load skill. So if you've done what I've done here, you have a raw attack rating of 245 with no element. You have 0% affinity, which can potentially be 50% when you take into account weakness exploit, with a defense of 471. That is strong against fire and dragon, but unfortunately weak to the other elements. As for the switch skills, these are down to personal preference, but I go for the absolute power shot, dodge bolt, and focus shot. Now when it comes to the skills, first of all you have Constitution at level 4. Constitution is a skill that reduces the stamina cost of certain actions like firing arrows with the bow or performing dodges. You have Critical Boost at level 3. Critical Boost is a skill that increases the damage of our attacks when they crit a monster, but this only applies to the raw portion of an attack, not an elemental portion, but this shouldn't matter as we are using a non-elemental build. You have Weakness Exploit at level 3, which gives us an increased affinity when we're attacking monster weak points. Weakness Exploit at level 3 gives us a 50% increase to our affinity. You have Stamina Surge level 3, which increases how quickly our stamina will replenish itself naturally over time. You have Spread Up level 3, which increases the damage of spread arrows, which the Chameleos bow, the Demon's Guidance, mainly uses. You have Evade Window at level 3. This is a byproduct of the talisman I'm using. This may be different for your build depending on what you have available. Evade Window, if you have it, increases our invincibility frames when we perform dodges and such. You have Reload Speed at level 2. With the bow you only need to get this to level 2, as it allows us to automatically equip coatings when you select them. You have Bow Charge Plus level 1, which increases how many levels we can charge up the bow, increasing its overall damage. You have Muck Resistance at level 1, a byproduct of the armor we're using, that reduces limits on movement speed. And you'll have Dragonheart at level 1, again another byproduct. Dragonheart activates when your health is at 50% or less, to which you'll contract Dragon Blight, and in doing so all your elemental resistances will be increased to 30. So those are all the skills available to this build. But every build out there has pros and cons. When it comes to this build, its biggest pro is it can be used against any monster. Thanks to it being a non-elemental build, we don't have to take into account a monster's elemental resistances, so we can use this against any monster we come up against at the start of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. On top of that, this build has awesome stamina recovery. It has Constitution at a high level, and on top of that we've maxed out Stamina Surge, making it easier for us to manage our stamina. And then finally, this build has decent damage output. Thanks to the Weakness Exploit, Crit Boost, Spread Up, and Bow Charge Plus, we'll be able to deal decent damage with this build. But unfortunately there are cons. One of the biggest cons for this build is unfortunately we need to be close to a monster to deal effective damage. This can be risky for the bow, as this increases the chance of you being hit. But this is the trade-off when it comes to using spread arrows, as whilst we can deal decent damage at close range, we also run that risk. And the other con is unfortunately this build is kind of lacking when it comes to defensive skills. Yes, the build I am showing here has Evade Window, which will help, and potentially you could use a different talisman with a different defensive skill on, like Divine Protection, but for the most part this build does lack defensive skills. This is alleviated though, should you master the Dodge Bolt, which allows you to counter attacks taking next to no damage. But regardless, like I said, these builds are supposed to be aimed at taking on any monster we come across at the start of Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. And this build can do just that. It has decent damage output so long as you get close to a monster. This is coupled with decent quality of life skills, such as high constitution and stamina surge. Okay, it does lack a little bit when it comes to defense, but this is countered thanks to the use of dodge bolt as well as evade window, as in the case of the build being shown here, making it overall a build that I would recommend for any bow player. So I hope this build helps, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you a pre-Sunbreak build for Monster Hunter Rise. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.